Black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all. I'm blickety black, blacker than black, black.
Welcome back to the Last of the Factor Black History Month movie review special, where I review a piece of black cinema that I have never seen before. And today, that piece of black cinema I have chose to review today is Jason's Lyric, which came out in 1994, so it is essentially celebrating its 30th anniversary. And it's about Jason, played by Alan Payne, and his brother, Josh, played by Bokeem Woodbine. They're two brothers that grew up and they didn't live in the best of circumstances, but the two of them go on different paths, in which Alan Payne, he falls in love with somebody played by Jada Pinkett Smith, while his brother Josh, he goes for the street life and has a bit of a chip on his shoulder, and things don't end up well for him. And it all takes place in the rural South in Texas. Now, Jason's Lyric, it's one of those movies that I've heard the title of and I've always heard about, but I never really came across it. And maybe it played on like BET or other stations here and there, but I just never really had the motivation to sit down and watch it or just seek it out until now. And then I looked at the cast in which you have Alan Payne. I'm like, okay. And Alan Payne, he was working in the early 90s between New Jack City and then CB4 and now this. And then Bokeem Woodbine, and he's always been working. Every time I see him in a movie, I'm like, hey, Bokeem Woodbine. And then there's other people in this movie, like the world's most hated woman right now. I'm sorry, Jada Pinkett Smith. And she was kind of the it girl at that time. But how do I feel about this movie? I actually really dug it because before I watched this, I did watch the trailer, and the trailer made it look amazing. And I watched it, and I'm like, this movie is a lot deeper and a lot more dramatic than I thought. But it does have some cheesy elements to it, but all those cheesy elements also doesn't neglect the rest of the movie. But what I loved about this movie is the brotherly aspect of it, in which you have two brothers. Well, I am going to have to talk about this movie's in spoilers, but you have Mad Dog, played by Forrest Whitaker. He was a father figure to the two of them, but then he went to the Vietnam War and got his leg blown off, and mentally he was just never the same. And then one night he goes on a drunken rage, slaps the hell out of their mom, and then Josh, he pulls a gun out on him, but then Jason, he stops it, but then Jason accidentally shoots Mad Dog. And so from that right there, that also sets up the conflict within Jason, because he feels like he owes his family. But then Josh, he just continues to not do right. Can't get right. Won't do right. But Josh, he has a chip on his shoulder, and everybody is just rooting for him, trying to be like, come on, Josh, you can do it. You just do right. And then, like I said, Jason, he falls in love with Jada Pinkett Smith's character, and she shows him a side of life that he's just not used to, and that could happen for him. She's trying to show him a better way, but he's just stuck where he's at. He's over to his family, more specifically Josh. And she even says in the movie, you can't help somebody that doesn't want to be helped. But I also like everything between Josh and their mother, because their mother, at this point, she is just giving up on him. There is no helping him. Like, you could definitely see the layers between that relationship. And I just love that this is a hood movie that takes place in Texas, especially at a time where most hood movies all took place either in LA or in New York. But here you have a hood movie that takes place in Texas, which was definitely different. And the performances in this movie are solid. Like I mentioned Alan Payne and how he was working in the early 90s, and to be honest, like the first thing I think I ever saw him was Tyler Perry's House of Pain, which I thought he was good and funny in his own right on the show. But then I started seeing all the other stuff he was in. I'm like, Alan Payne, he's a great actor that a lot of studios or whoever give him credit. Like, why is this man not working? And then Bokeem Woodbine, I've always appreciated him as an actor, but after watching him in this movie, I appreciate his range as an actor. I mentioned Forrest Whitaker in one of his earlier roles, and hey, greatness in the making. Some other early performances in this movie, like Eddie Griffin, who's up and coming at that point, and he is funny in his own right. And funny, I just watched him in My Baby's Daddy. Then you got Treach from Naughty by Nature. And then there's the ending, which is a little bit open ending, but I like the ending because it's basically Josh's downfall, in which he kills everybody that went for him and threatened to kill him and his brother. Josh ends up shooting Jada Pinkett, and at that point, it's one of those, hey, my debt is repaid, because Jason, he basically shot Mad Dog for him, and then Josh accidentally shot Jada, but unfortunately, Josh, he kills himself. It's basically a life for a life, in which now Jada Pinkett at the very end, turns out she's still alive. Or at least that's how I interpret it, but I'm not condoning anybody unaliving themselves. But this movie was a lot better than I expected. Now, granted, there are some cheesy moments within this movie. Like, there's like 2 sex scenes that is just cheesy as hell. And really, basically, everything between Alan Payne and Jada Pinkett in this movie was probably just the cheesiest part in this movie for me. I feel like everything between him and his brother was more interesting, and all the love stuff, I feel like that movie just kind of derailed the movie for a bit, and that's why I'm not giving this movie my highest rating. But however, I still recommend this movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I'm gonna give Jason's Lyric the hard eyes emoji.